Immigration is a touchy subject for just about everyone. Should they come into our country? Should we let them stay? Are they adding value or are they taking from all of our hardworking American citizens? Well, in this video, we're going to talk about what Biden and Trump think about immigration policy. Hey friends, welcome to Adulting with Esther, the show where we talk about the things that you don't learn in school. I'm Esther Page, and today we're going to be talking about Biden versus Trump, specifically immigration policy. If you're new here, welcome. Consider hitting that subscribe button down below so you can be alerted and support the channel. This video is part of a 10-part series in which we'll be talking about all of these topics. You can find those topics in the playlist for them down here in the description or up here in the card. Now in today's video, we'll be talking about 5 key issues surrounding immigration policy, but make sure you stick around to the end so you can find out that one issue that Biden and Trump agree on. Should the U.S. continue to build a border wall between the United States and Mexico? So in 2016, when Trump ran for president, he promised that he would build a border wall between the United States and Mexico. The intentions of this wall was that it would decrease illegal immigration as well as the amount of drugs and weapons being brought into the country from outside countries. This wall itself would span the entire distance, which is 2,000 miles. Now, before Trump took office, of those 2,000 miles, 654 of them already had walls of a variety of styles. Some of them were really strong and built by the Bush administration, and some of them were kind of like sheep farm fences, you know, like 2x4s, nothing special. So, how's that project going? As of 2019, Trump has increased the amount of walls from 654 to 704, which means he's built about 50 miles more. But they've also gone back and repaired some of those 654 miles that had not very good walls in the first place. Since the 2019 update, the Trump administration has received funding for 201 to 205 more miles of border wall. Are you wondering how much this stuff costs? Yeah, me too. So the walls that were built by the Bush administration varied in cost between $1 million and $4 million per mile of wall. Well, now the wall that Trump is building is varying between $11 million and $20 million per 1 mile of wall. As of January 2020, the running total of wall costs is up to $11 billion. And we're not even close to even being halfway done. So are you wondering why Trump's fence is costing 5 times more than Bush's fence? Well, it's due to a lot of reasons. One, he's got some crazy high-tech upgrades. These are 30-foot barriers. They're not concrete like he originally wanted. Now they're going with steel, and steel is more pricey. They've also got a 150-foot enforcement zone that contains lighting, cameras, and other technology, including all-weather access to the area so that they can, continue to patrol these borders and keep everybody that's not supposed to be in America out of America. Also, every electronic gate that allows passage through this 30-foot steel barrier costs $1 million to build as well. But another reason that the wall is costing so much is the different zones it's going through. When we look at the southern tip of Texas, there's a lot of different counties, and within those counties, most of the land is privately owned. What that means is when the federal government wants to build property through that privately owned land, they need to go to court for it and be able to seize that land from the private property owners, which skyrockets the judicial costs and the court costs and increases the timeline. So when you look right by the Rio Grande River, there's 2 counties that are really costing a lot of money. Starr County is costing as much as $11.4 million per mile, and there's 22.1 miles across that county, leading to a total cost of $258 million for that 22-mile stretch of fencing. And then not far over is Hidalgo County, where it's costing as much as $21 million per mile of fencing. And keep in mind that these fences aren't even going to completely cover the entire area. This is just partial borders in between areas that have already been built and natural landforms. Don't trust my information? You know the deal. Check the sources down below in the show notes. There's also been some fishy business about who the private contractors are that are going to be building this wall. The Pentagon's Inspector General is actually going to be reviewing the contract to see if the White House actually steered it toward this company out of North Dakota. And keep in mind that this privately owned company claimed that with 1 crew alone, in 1 calendar year, they could build 15 miles of fencing. But what do our 2 candidates think about building this wall? Well, Biden is con and Trump is pro. But let's find out more about why. Trump talks about how important this barrier wall is because it'll decrease the number of criminal gangs that are coming into America, as well as drug trafficking, human trafficking, and other nefarious purposes. He also believes that the border will very quickly pay for itself, but that's still up for debate given that he originally claimed that Mexico, with their trade deal, would be paying for this wall. Yet all the funding for this wall since 2016 has come from bills passed through Congress, not from Mexico. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Should we continue building a wall that's costing as much as $20 million per mile? Let me know down in the comments. Oh yeah, but Biden, here's what he thinks. He thinks a wall is a waste. But not because he doesn't think the border is important. He wants border protection, just not border protection in the form of a fence. He would like to have more security, more personnel, and more high-tech capacity that can deal with all the points of entry between Mexico and the United States. However, Biden was previously pro on this issue and continuing to build the wall. The sentiment about no longer wanting to build a wall is from August of 2020, so relatively recent. Should the U.S. end the Deferred Action Childhood Arrival Policy, also known as DACA, which is DACA, I think? So this DACA policy is one that was initiated by the Obama administration in 2015. And what it does is it prevents children who entered the United States as undocumented immigrants, it prevents them from being removed and actually opens them up for work permits to work in the United States legally. The immigrants who are undocumented and choose to participate in this program are referred to as Dreamers, and that's because of the DREAM Act, and DREAM stands for Development, Relief, Education of Alien Minors Act. Alien meaning from another country, not like, woo! But keep in mind, the DREAM Act was introduced in 2001, but it wasn't passed. So then 2017 came around and President Trump ended the DACA Act. Well, at least he tried to. The US Supreme Court actually declined to even hear that appeal, and so it was pushed forward. This issue finally made it to the US Supreme Court in November of 2019, nearly 2 full years later. So now that we're in 2020, DACA is still in place for those who are already part of it. However, if they didn't already apply and were not under the umbrella of DACA, you no longer can do that. And that kind of puts these immigrants into a new level of limbo. So, what are our candidates' stances on this whole DACA Act? Biden is con. We should not end the DACA Act. And Trump doesn't have a clear stance. So let's find out why. In Biden's stance, he talks about being a young child who was brought here with your family when you were 4, 5, 6 years old and having to grow up in that country, getting jobs, working hard, paying taxes, maybe even joining the military or going on to higher levels of education, and then being removed and put back into your country of birth, but not even remember that country. He believes that if you've been here for that time and you've been working hard and helping out, that ultimately we should work towards a path towards legal immigrants becoming a part of this country. And in a quote from him in 2017, he says, "These people are all Americans, so let's be clear. Throwing them out is cruel. It is inhumane, and it is not America. Congress and the American people now have an obligation to step up and show our neighbors that they're welcome here, in the only place they've ever called home." In this quote that I found, it's very obvious why Trump's stance is not clear, because this answer is a very roundabout answer that is not clear, and I'd like you to hear it in his words instead of me summarizing it. So do your best to hang on and let's see where this goes. The deal was done. DACA is going to be just fine. We're putting it in, and it's going to be just fine. And I am going to be, over the next few weeks, signing an immigration bill that a lot of people don't know about. You have breaking news, but I'm signing a big immigration bill. I'm going to do a big executive order. I have the power to do it as president, and I'm going to make DACA a part of it. But we put it in, and we're probably going to be taking it out. We're working out the legal complexities right now, but I'm going to be signing a very major immigration bill as an executive order, which Supreme Court now, because of DACA's decision, has given me the power to do that. What I'm going to do is that they're going to part of a much bigger bill on immigration. It's going to be a very big bill, a very good bill, and a merit-based bill. It will include DACA, and I think people are going to be very happy. But one of the aspects of the bill is going to be DACA. We're going to have a road to citizenship. So it sounds like he wants to keep DACA, but in a different form within his own immigration bill that's going to be a big deal that none of us know about. Do you know more about this? This is information from July 2020, so it's semi-recent, but I'm sure there's more. However, previously, Trump was very clearly con on this issue. Oh yeah, and if you're getting value out of this video, don't forget to hit that like button. Should immigrants who entered the US illegally be denied a path to citizenship? Another term that you might have heard of is called amnesty, which refers of a path to citizenship. And basically, it's a process that helps undocumented immigrants become documented immigrants through a series of tests and fees and background checks and other, red tape. These additional requirements would be on top of the naturalization process that's already required for immigrants to become legal citizens. So they'd have to do what it takes to be legal, plus more because they're not legal. People who are not for this say that we need to get the illegal immigrants out of here. Basically, they blew their chance at becoming a legal immigrant when they broke the rules, and now they've become a burden on American society for American taxpayers, describe them as criminals and social and economic burdens on our society. People who are for the illegal immigrants becoming legal say that this group of citizens actually really builds our economy. They pay taxes. They've expanded the low-cost labor pool because in their home countries they were getting paid pennies. At least over here, $8 an hour is a pretty good wage, and they're willing to work hard for that. And they also increase the money that's put into circulation and really have the motivations that are consistent with that American dream that we've all heard of our whole lives. Moreover, this group of undocumented immigrants is also willing to take on job roles that most Americans wouldn't be willing to do. And this group of people also says that the people who are against undocumented immigrants or allowing undocumented immigrants to become legal immigrants are racist, or at least that these ideas stem from racism.
And here's my 2 cents on the matter.
You all know that I'm a teacher in Chicago, so I work with an urban population of a lot of immigrants. And in my time getting my master's degree, I had to do a lot of research around the subject of immigrants, as well as how it relates to education. And what they've found surrounding immigrants and their work ethic is actually very interesting. You see, they say that the first generation of immigrants works really hard. However, in school, they're a little bit more deprived than the natural citizens born in America because most of them don't have the resources they need, and most of them don't speak English, or if they do, it's not well. And so they do have a lot of barriers to go up against. However, in this research, they found that second generation immigrants, that means the first person came over and then had a child. So that would be these people from the DACA Act. They're finding that the second generation of immigrants works really hard. They have the values of their parents, but they have the resources of Americans. They have good public education, they have a roof over their head, and then they have their parents' values of we need to work hard for that American dream. However, what they found is that the third generation, basically the grandkids of the first generation immigrants, they aren't as educated and they don't work as hard. And in fact, the research is saying that it's a form of Americanization, where this group of people is more likely to get involved in crime and delinquency and not spend as much time and effort working towards increasing their education and becoming a positive American citizen. So that's my soapbox. What do our candidates say on this issue? Trump says pro, they should be denied, and Biden says con, let's make it happen. So let's find out why. Trump cites that since 1970, we've had 40 million green cards issued, and those people have become legal immigrants. But he has no tolerance for the people who break and defy our rules and come into our country illegally. Most notably, he says that those people who are coming in illegally kind of cut the line for the people who have been waiting to fill out the paperwork accordingly and become naturalized citizens. It's just not fair for the illegal ones to come in and take it away. And so Trump would like to work towards a more merit-based system that would allow hardworking, dedicated immigrants to become American citizens, but not the people who want to, be a burden on society. But we'll talk about that more in a second. Let's see what Biden thinks. Biden's big concern is we need to pursue an immigration policy that's more humane. We need to work on keeping families together. ICE is tearing families apart, and that's not good for any society, especially in America. Is that what we're founding our values on? So, should Biden become president, he wants to work toward immigration reform that would work toward getting our 11 million undocumented illegal immigrants toward a legal path of citizenship. And ultimately, fix their mistakes of sneaking in here in the first place. Should the federal government limit the number of green card holders that are likely to become dependent on government resources, basically like the public charge rule? So what the public charge rule is, it refers to immigrants who come to our country and then ultimately become a public charge. This was something that Trump put into action and the Supreme Court ruled yes on in January of 2020. And basically what this public charge rule does is it denies a person entry into the country as well as a visa or a green card based on the level of public welfare that they think that this person will need. However, the public charge rule doesn't apply to the naturalization process, which, remember, naturalization is the process of becoming a legal and documented immigrant. So what do our candidates think? Well, Trump is pro and Biden is not. Trump has one thing to say. I'm tired of seeing our taxpayers paying for people to come into the country and immediately go onto welfare and various other things. Biden is on the other end of the spectrum for this one. He says that Reversing this rule is part of his 100-day plan. He believes that denying access based on people's need of Medicare or SNAP benefits is discriminatory, and it undermines America's character and basically says that we only want the wealthy in America instead of being open to all. What do you think? What does the American dream mean to you? Do you feel like that even exists anymore in this country? I don't know. But anyways, we've got one more left, and that's the one that Biden and Trump have the same stance on. Ready? Should the US decriminalize illegal border crossings? Biden and Trump both say no. There's a federal code called Title 8, and what that does is it makes sneaking into the country illegal and punishable by fines and prison time. In fact, in April 2018, Trump announced a zero-tolerance policy for illegal immigrants, which has ultimately resulted in families being separated. So what would happen here if this were decriminalized? People who were entering and crossing the border illegally, it would still be considered something bad, but it would be labeled as a civil offense instead of a criminal one. The big difference between a civil issue and a criminal one, that a civil issue is usually handled in a private dispute between the parties that are involved. A criminal one is considered to be harmful to all of society and is considered as an offense against the state and can rightfully be prosecuted upon. So as you know, Biden and Trump both say no on this. Well, let's find out more about why. In Trump's stance, he quotes a line from Title 8, referring to how ultimately when you need to come into the US, you need to do it at an appropriate port and at an appropriate time. And that's really the only way you should do it. It should still be considered criminal. And Biden says something pretty similar. Fact is, when you enter the country illegally, it's a crime. And he also says that no matter when you enter the country illegally, it should be considered a crime, unless it's for the purpose of seeking asylum. Asylum, in case you're wondering, is when a citizen is fleeing another country as a political refugee, aka they need help to get away from that country because something bad is going on with them. But ultimately, people who want to come into America, they need to go to the back of the line just like everyone else. Well, that's immigration in a nutshell. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Do you think we should be welcoming more people into the country for the purpose of them being allowed to pursue the American dream, just like all of our ancestors have? I don't know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know down below. And hey, if you made it this far, you're awesome. You know I think it, and you should too. Stroke your ego a little bit and go ahead and type this word down in the comments for me so I know you made it this far and you can basically brag to everyone else that you did it. If you got value out of this video, make sure you hit that like button and don't forget to press that red subscribe button down below so that you can get notified when we post our videos on Tuesday. Hope you had a great time here. I had a great time making this video for you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!